Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I am your host, SPalm. Follow me on Twitter at SPalm66. Follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. Follow the entire MTR network at the MTR network. You found us, don't lose to subscribe in the iTunes store. Subscribe everywhere podcasts are given away for absolutely free. And once you've done that subscription, leave that 5-star review to have your words heard on the air. It's a great way to get feedback and let us know exactly what you're thinking about what we're doing. That is all the preamble I'm going to do. I want to knock out some housekeeping things. Everyone who emailed in for our fantasy league, we have our 10 spots filled. Thank you very much for following the instructions, emailing in. The email will be going out later this week is about logistics, is how we're going to get everything done. But again, thank you guys for signing up. The Pick'em. So I forgot how I did this last year. I realized that it wasn't a closed group. It was a public group. So what I'm going to do is in the show notes here, I'm going to reactivate last year's Pick'em group. It's on ESPN. You should have ESPN login to do it. It's pretty simple, and you can lose to me in real time this year yet again. So episode 100 in the books. Thank you for everyone who reached out to say congratulations, or I don't know what else you'd say besides congratulations. Like, no one really hated it. It's kind of nice. But there was one negative review because in answering the mailbag questions, I was honest. I said that my father was an open invitation whenever he wants to come on, and that SPalm, my wife, we'd have to negotiate when she could be allowed back on. So she listens to the podcast, and here she is. I mean, what more can I say? Like, I don't have any more of an introduction than that, baby. Susan's back, y'all.
I'm back. I made it back. All I had to do was complain. I made it back.
It's different though. When you complain, you're there. Like, I can't like ignore that tweet. I can just, that complaint happened in my home. I have to.
Can avoid me because we own a house together.
It's true. It's true. But thank you for coming on. We're going to have some fun today. But first, I want to talk about what we did last night. And it's largely because of you. You took us to the Janelle Monáe show in Atlanta. And I am not one of those people who usually springs for great seats. You sprung for great seats, and it was totally worth it.
Oh, it was fantastic. She's incredible. Such a great performer. And it was an awesome show. I'm so glad we went.
It's crazy. I was talking with you about this last night. Janelle Monáe came in at the end of a summer where everyone in Atlanta tries to stun as hard as possible and sold out 2 nights in a row at the Tabernacle. Like, we were there on Saturday, and it was filled to the brim. Like, people were dancing in the aisles.
Well, she has a presence in the city. You know, her studio is based here. She recorded her album here that she, almost performed in the whole thing last night. And she's, I don't know, man. I'm obsessed. I think she's fantastic. And I love that album so much.
It's so good. It was so exciting to see her live because she's, like you said, like, she's a legitimate performer. She put on a show. It's easily a top 5 show for me. And I'm a guy who loves going to concerts and loves going to shows, but that's, like, without trying to get too much recency bias, that may be the best live performance I've ever seen.
Well, she did a Prince tribute, a James Brown tribute, and then danced like Michael Jackson for 3 hours straight.
She covered all the bases of the show you want to see, and I think something that really speaks to her live performance that you and I have disagreed with on other things is that I felt like there was a cohesive message. Like, so for those who don't know, there's a long-standing argument in our home about the Love Below half of Speaker Buck's Love Below album. Susan loves it. She loves Under 3000. She loves it, and I feel like it's good but disjointed. The thing about the Janelle Monáe show is that's one of the few live experiences where I felt like there was, like, you weren't telling a story, you weren't going through the hits. It was one theme throughout the night, and she held to it.
But it was her intention for it to be that way. And
right. We
could obviously argue about this forever, but I don't think that his intention in Love Below was for it to be this consistent, cohesive thought and vision throughout. I'm just saying.
I wasn't trying to restart that argument. I was just saying that that's kind of the lens with which I appreciated the show last night.
Well, you're the one that brought it up. I'm just saying.
Yes, dear. Everyone who isn't married, just take notes. Yes, dear is a great one. It's a winner. Because you're usually wrong. All right, so let's get to no, not you. I'm talking about you, the listener, not you, Susan. Don't. Let's get to baseball. So, for those of you keeping track at home, that's 3 weeks in a row that this podcast has opened talking about baseball. And exactly 0 of those times have they opened with talking about the actual game on the field. Because, once again, a player was in the national media for talking poorly in his tweets But before we get to the player who did wrong, let's talk about a player who did right. Sean Doolittle of the Washington Nationals came out with a series of tweets on the 30th, and it was I'll read it to you as you make your own distinctions. It's been a tough couple of weeks for baseball on Twitter. It sucks to see racist and homophobic language coming from inside our league, a league I'm so proud to be a part of, that I've worked really hard to make it more accepting and inclusive place for all of our fans to enjoy. We have to start caring as much about the content of the posts as we do about when they were made and how they came to light. The answer isn't for athletes to leave social media. Social media can be great for an athlete. I met my wife on Twitter, long story. It helps athletes connect, share their stories and personalities, and connect with their community. Besides, it's not like you can accidentally post a slur. All very smart reason points. A lot of the tweets that have surfaced are from several years ago, from a time in their lives when they may not have realized the impact that those words have. But as you learn from and grow out of that useful indiscretion, delete those posts to reflect that growth. Between all the people you meet and the places you go, there's a lot of opportunity for personal growth in baseball. It's entirely possible that these old posts no longer reflect that person's views, but actions will speak louder than words. It's a reminder that words matter, and the impact of the words matter more than the intent. Rather than feeling like this platform makes us targets and we have to censor ourselves, find a way to make the platform lift up others and make a positive impact. It can be tough for us athletes to understand why the words are so hurtful. Most of us have been at the top of the food chain since high school, immune to insults. When all you've known is success and triumph, it can be difficult to empathize with the feeling vulnerable or marginalized. And it goes on, and it explains, like, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, a lot of the uproar, the hoopla about the baseball kind of upordering of tweets has been about the social media conversation and the intent. This is the first person I'd seen really thoughtfully tackle why it's a problem as opposed to how do we stop it.
Are you sure this guy's a baseball player?
Well, that's the crazy thing. So I always joke that in my past life, I worked in sports agents, and I always generalize baseball players as the least bright athletes you interacted with, because a lot of times they're plucked from their high school, sent to a small town to play baseball. And that's kind of the end of education. Say what you will about football players, you have to be in a scholastic environment for 3 years, and you can't stay eligible on a college campus without picking up the abilities, like the tenets of critical thinking. You just can't. So yeah, but here you go, Susan. He went to UVA, so he got drafted after 3 years at UVA. So he played college ball too.
There you go.
But it's kind of what I've been tacitly asking for on the show. I think a lot of people have too, is don't just tell us that you're upset that it came out. Tell us why it's a problem. And it's interesting because Trey Turner is a player for the Nationals who, in his fourth season, who right after Sean Doolittle's kind of Twitter speech, these things came out from his past. And his experience and his response was one that I hadn't seen before. I'm going to read part of it. This is a tearful apology, by the way. If you haven't seen the video, go look it up. For starters, I want to apologize to everybody that was affected by things that I said. The LGBT community, the African American community, special needs community. He spoke without notes or prepared speech, his eyes welling. I'm truly sorry for what I said and want to take full responsibility for that. I want to apologize to my teammates. I just talked to them, make sure they know my thoughts and where I'm at. I want to apologize to Mike Rizzo and the Nationals for bringing this distraction to the team. The organization, sorry for that as well. But most importantly, apologize to the fans. A lot of fans have been sharing their thoughts the last few days. I have a chance to read a few of them. I think it's where it's most affected by what I said, and when I want to apologize for those people. And he clarified, it's not when I said the things I said, it's that I said them at all. And it's a level of maturity that I think kind of reflects the power of an elder statesman in the clubhouse like Doolittle. He spoke to a larger global issue, but it directly affected a local teammate. And that's got to be kind of the way athletes have to heal it, because the finger wagging only results in things like that player getting applauded in Milwaukee, which is still disgusting. But this go ahead.
It's just a real sincere apology.
Mm-hmm.
That's not making excuses. Yeah.
It feels like it shouldn't stand out, but it does, because so many of these guys are like, I'm sorry these got dug up, or I'm sorry you're offended. It's obvious that Sean Doolittle's voice mattered to Trey Turner, and it's obvious that it got through, because that's the kind of apology that should be the norm and shouldn't be the exception, but that's where we are right now.
Yeah, it's not just laughed off like, I was a kid, whatever.
Yeah. I went through my racist phase and got over it. It's fine.
Yeah. That's not a thing, by the way.
Thank you for clarifying. So I'm 33, and in my lifetime, as a Braves fan or not Braves fan, or call it what you will, the Mets have been terrible. And I know it extends prior to my lifetime. That's all I can speak to. This past week, the Mets suffered the worst loss of their franchise's history. And if you're thinking, wait, you're talking about the New York Metropolitans? Exactly. It's as bad as it sounds. They got shelled by the aforementioned Washington Nationals, 25-4. 25-4.
I couldn't get through the article I was reading about this because it bummed me out. I was like, it's Saturday. I don't want to be reading about this. This is the saddest story ever.
You know what's sadder? That the Nationals led 19-0 through 5 innings. The second team in MLB history to hold a team scoreless through 5 innings while also scoring 19-plus runs. The last time it happened was May 13th, 1876, when the Hartford Blue Ducks led the New York Mutuals 21-0 through 5.
Shut up. I didn't realize there was a second record in this incident.
It's
That's awful.
It's amazing. Every National starter, including starting pitcher Tanner Roark, scored at least 2 runs.
Ugh.
It's the most runs scored in a baseball game since the Rangers won 30-0 over Baltimore in 07. The Mets manager was quoted after the loss, "We have to do better than that." Is that the understatement of the year? Or like, he's in a weird position. Like, what do you say? You lost 25-4, but like, you've got to do better. Well, no shit. Like, you get paid to say that? Come on, man.
Yeah, like, where's the bar? Like, ugh.
The bar is the floor. Clearly, the bar is the floor because we found. I was like, what's the most Mets thing that happened? That's it. That's the most Mets thing that happened. Even more Mets. They put in a position player to pitch, and what do the Nationals do? And you and I talked about this beforehand. I think, and I'm not an unwritten rules guy. I'm not a be nice to people guy. I'm a beat them until they can't beat you back, till they beat you back kind of guy. But shelling the position player for 6 runs feels unnecessary.
I don't know. I think that it was deserved. You gotta make sure they understand.
What was clarified in the last 6 runs?
I don't know.
Jose Reyes pitch. Like, this is ridiculous. It's like, people pay money to watch this. And 25-4, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm being overly like apologetic for the guys getting their heads kicked in. But if I'm throwing out a position player, let's get some base hit to get out of here. Like, you guys taking laps on 2 home runs off Jose friggin' Reyes isn't impressing anyone.
I don't know. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that, like, letting up was a thing.
Yeah, I love it because it's not letting up. It's like, don't embarrass somebody if you don't have to. And of course, you know me, I don't actually roll that way. I don't actually believe that thought. But it's one of those things that kind of is, especially in baseball, where it's like this puritanical, unwritten rules nonsense. I feel like if you put up 25 on me, someone's getting a fastball in the ear. I'm sorry. Like, no one got hit. Like, I was like, wait, and the Mets didn't hit anyone? Anyone.
God.
Have some pride. Get mad. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm
By
crazy.
pelting other people. See, that's outside of, like, how baseball is played, though. Right? I mean,
It is, but it isn't.
you
Like,
don't just like pelt people with balls. That's like revenge.
Funny story. That's one of the unwritten rules that they allow. Baseball's super weird. It gets like it's super duper weird, and that's why no one watches it.
I like that you encompass everyone.
I don't watch. When's the last time you saw baseball on this house?
That's what I mean. I'm just saying that because you don't watch baseball, no one watches baseball.
I can read ratings, young lady. Anyway, so last week we covered this in the King edition. LeBron James, the I Promise School, amazing achievement, amazing outreach for all these children who are going to get more opportunity than you could ever imagine. Well, this week there were what we call haters in the midst. People were tweeting out things like, "Why didn't anyone focus on Jalen Rose when he did this?" Or "Why is he building just one?" First of all, the good deeds of one man did not destroy the fact that a system has failed to the point that one man had to do it. And another thing, stop hating. Like, that's one of the things that gets me is, like, even before we get to, like, the ultimate king hater who changed the entire argument on Friday night, like, the little haters out there, like, people who just are so dedicated to disliking LeBron James that they were like, why only but one school? Like, it's like, I'm telling you, those people are out there.
Yeah, I can't handle it. I mean, you know how I have my Beyonce thing where, like, if someone is adamant about not liking Beyonce, I can't like them?
You
Because
turn
it
on
just
the
rationally, yeah, LeBron has been added to that list. It's now a list. And because it makes no sense to me.
right.
Like, how can you not, even if you, like, hate the teams that he plays for,
Mm-hmm.
what is it about this person that upsets you so much? And I just assume that it's racism, right? It's my go-to. Like, it's a deep-seated hate that you maybe don't even know is there.
No,
But it makes no sense to me.
You're 1,000% right, and, like, I would have made that joke even before Trumpito decided to climb down off his Cheeto-encrusted tower and give us his not worth the money it's printed on 2 cents, and said something to the effect of, Don Lemon making LeBron James look smart, that's hard to do. I like Mike, which, first of all, Michael Jordan truthers, you lost. It's one of those situations when if someone is on your side, your argument's immediately invalidated. With Donald Trump tweeting, I like Mike, the GOAT debate ended, and LeBron James was handed the crown.
God, I hope so. I mean, is that what it takes to push it over the edge?
But, like, it's one of those situations where you believe something so ardently, and you look at who's on your side, like, wait a second, maybe I'm the idiot.
Nah, you'd hope so.
Because we know Trumpito's an idiot, and if you agree with him, you've got to ask some hard questions. So all those people who are slowly realizing LeBron is the GOAT, first of all, welcome. Second of all, like, Susan, this is the first time that Trump has even obliquely referred to LeBron James.
Yeah.
And LeBron's taking shot after shot. I've got a shirt that says "You bum" on it with him dunking on Donald Trump. Like, this has happened for a while. Is it finally found the fight that he can't win? Has he finally
why is
found
this the week?
Is this the fight that proves, that turns America's corner? Because he attacked the guy who opened the school for at-risk kids. Like, it's not even like you attacked LeBron James. Not like you attacked LeBron James during the finals. You took time out of your day to attack LeBron James after the week he opens a school for children.
I just don't get it.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a trap. I mean, I guess it's on brand, I suppose.
Oh, it's very on brand. Like, there's no question on that. It's 100% on brand decision by him. But in that, it's a horrible one. It's a horrible one. Speaking of horrible decisions, so apparently in one of those fancy super exclusive post ESPYs parties, Draymond Green kept talking to a certain man named Tristan Thompson, and Tristan Thompson allegedly face mushed him out the paint. Now, aside from the fact that, like, we saw these two come to blows at the end of Game 1 of the finals, Draymond's now said that this didn't happen. People go lying about the reports. Susan, knowing what we know about Draymond Green, ultimate antagonist, perennial heel, could you see this all escalating and happening the way it's being reported?
I mean, yeah, it seems like something that was bound to happen. I just really enjoy that this incident has brought the term face mush into the media. It's all over the place.
It's very interesting. I thought it was going to break through. I think there was a mention of it during Chappelle's show. I thought that was going to be the tipping of the zeitgeist where everyone would know what a face mush was. But now we've turned the corner to where Draymond Green is getting face mushed at a party. LeBron James is breaking it up and leaving his own party like, I'm too old for this shit. Like,
yeah.
My only problem with this, and I am astonished, this is an anti-Draymond Green space. He is a troll. He is one of the worst people alive. But, I'm obviously sports hate. But, like, what do you have to say to someone to make them engage you physically? Like, especially Tristan Thompson. Like, I'm not a small person, and you've gone places with me. And when people are drinking, you always get that, but I can take you, big man, and that kind of stuff. So people have talked shit to Tristan Thompson his entire life. What could Draymond have said? Because, Susan, I'm not going to lie. You've been to a Palmer family holiday dinner. You sat at that table. You've seen the trash that gets talked.
It is a peaceful environment. I don't know what you're talking about, just in case your mother is listening. Hi, Diane.
Fair enough. You've played dominoes with my father.
Yes.
Okay. You saw, like, that's how I was raised. That's how people were like, oh, did you let your kids beat you and stuff. That doesn't even enter my mind. Like, letting my parents letting me win something, I don't understand the idea. I learned how to play dominoes by getting beat until I learned. And you got like the watered down version of that treatment, which congratulations.
By starting playing dominoes without anyone telling me rules. That's the watered down version of being taught how to play dominoes.
You weren't 7 years old and losing money to your father. So
That's
yes,
fair.
it is the watered down version.
Right. Well, he must have said something pretty fucked up.
But like that's the thing. Like what? I feel like if it was that fucked up, we would know what he said by now.
Unless it's something that he doesn't even want to be discussed.
Like, see, you're late to sports because we found out that just after this episode, Google Honey Nut Cheerios and Kevin Garnett. Like people say horrible things, especially in NBA circles, about your wife and or mother of your children. They'll do that. But to get face mushed, not only at a party, but like at a super corporate, super private party. Like these are parties where they collect your cell phone at the door. That's why there's no video. Like this is, I don't know. I'm support Tristan Thompson in his face mushing of Draymond Green endeavors. I, for one, just can't see how you get to that point.
They did. We'll never know.
They did. Well, I'll never know. NFL Hall of Fame weekend was this weekend. I watched 0% of the speeches. I did see that Ray Lewis sweat his way through a gold jacket, which is impressive. I just want to go on record because no one else is sweating that much. And we also saw Randy Moss taking his own take on the protests. I don't want to conflate this at all. Regarding extrajudicial murders of brown and black people in this country. And he did that with names of victims of such violence on his tie during his induction. And I haven't seen his speech yet. I know Moss probably put it on the show. But even just having that be the inalienable image, like you can't show a picture of Randy Moss at the Hall of Fame without talking about the tie. Like that's incredibly impressive, right?
Yeah. I mean, it gets the job done. I mean, it's a simple thing, but a very impactful thing.
And I think that's one of the unforeseen or probably unintended consequences of the NFL cracking down on these players' freedom of expression is that more and more of these players are finding their voice or finding different avenues to do this. Malcolm Jenkins starting his first his first training camp this year, he's wearing shirts that say #schools not prisons and with school reform or justice reform statistics on the back of it.
Wow.
These players are finding more and more ways to have their voices heard because all they're being told is that your voices don't matter or your voices don't count. And yet all that we've seen is not only have numbers not gone down for the NFL, but people are by and large, as their voices are being more explained and being more heard, the more people who say, oh, I understand now, it's sad it took them time to get there, but it's interesting to see kind of the zeitgeist shift on this from stop kneeling to, wait, why are we trying to shut them up?
Yeah, I mean, it's courageous too. I mean, all of us have seen how any type of protesting really can affect, your career. Hopefully it won't come to that, but I mean, it's courageous and it's great.
Hell, we saw it this week. NFL, EA Sports, their Madden 19, I guess, kind of review copies are out now, and unless it's already dropped. See, that's how I'm trying to be good and not buy Madden this year because. Not just because I don't need another copy of Madden, but also because there was an interesting edit that came out. It looks like they removed Colin Kaepernick's name from a song by Big Sean, and people noticed. And the excuse from EA Sports was, hey, this year Colin's not part of the NFLPA. We know we don't have the rights to put him in the game. We didn't know if we had the rights to have him on music. So in someone's haste, they removed it. Susan, you and I both work at large corporations. Anyone that motivated to be like, you know what, I'm not even going to ask my boss. I'm going to be proactive and remove this.
God, no. A product like that? I work in children's wear. Every T-shirt is scrutinized to make sure that we're not going to piss someone off or everything, every detail by multiple teams. The idea that something like that was just made by a mid-level, a decision like that was made by a mid-level guy without the approval of someone.
A rogue audio engineer.
Or the oversight. No one caught it. No one noticed. That's absurd.
But they take out curse words and they treat, if you listen to the edit, they treat his name like a curse word. And it's jarring. And people hear this explanation and you're like, oh, maybe that's true. Except for the fact that his name was removed from a YG song. Excuse me, I forget who the song was, but last year's game, he's actually in the game, but his name is removed from the song then too.
Yeah, it's absurd.
And I don't want to say that in the year of our Lord 2018, the NFL is dumb enough, while an open collusion case is occurring, to have requested that one of their media partners remove the name of a player currently embroiled in said collusion case. But Susan, if they're that stupid, oh my God, Colin Kaepernick might own the NFL. Like I'm reaching a point where I can't. There's a non-zero chance they're that stupid. First of all, second of all, and I know there's like label deals and things of that nature. Why not just choose another song? Like, how hot is that song?
Yeah.
Like, is it that song? Like, how hot is that song? Because just say, you know what, we're gonna go with a different track from your label, from this artist, from this album. We're just not going to go with the one that's going to put us in this weird position where we tell this, and it's fine, maybe not a lie yet, but this easily disprovable, flimsy statement.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, like, at all.
I really hope the NFL made him do it. I really hope this is like the collusion silver bullet. I hope this is the moment where the NFL is taken over by Colin Kaepernick and turns into, I guess, not football. I don't know what he would do with it. Oh my goodness. So camp is in session, and what camp means is that lots of stories about people dropping balls or throwing picks, but what's not stories are the injuries. 10 players as of August 2nd with torn ACLs. Panthers running back Fozzie Whitaker, the Eagles linebacker Paul Wallerall, I hate your name, I can never say it. Chargers tight end Hunter Henry, Rams defensive end Morgan Fox, Vikings defensive end Hercules Matuafa, Lions fullback Nick Bowden, Rams offensive lineman Rod Taylor, Chargers tight end Austin Roberts, Packers linebacker Jake Ryan, and Titans safety Jonathan Cyperian. I want to say those names out loud because you're never going to hear their names again this year. They sweep injured players and players that get hurt under the rug because that's not the fun part of football. It's not easy to talk about. It's something that you can't really talk about. And I know that the concussion system and things of that nature have gotten a lot more a play recently, a lot more attention. But the other injuries occur as well, and they all kind of feed into something that we're going to continue to talk about in a few seconds because Joshua Perry was an offensive lineman for the Seattle Seahawks. He is now retired after his sixth documented concussion. He's a linebacker. I apologize. He retired on Monday. His statement said, "The last thing I want to do is put the health of my brain and my future well-being in jeopardy over a game and a paycheck." He's a 24-year-old fourth-round draft pick out of Ohio State from 2016. And, yeah, his number this year was to make $630,000.
So did he have the option to keep playing?
Yeah.
Like he wouldn't have been like being injured.
You're saying that the team would have been like, oh, yeah, you can totally play. Yeah, they totally greenlighted.
What? Oh, man. It just terrifies me. And it's good for him for being so vocal about his reasoning. Especially he's 24 years old. Can you imagine, retiring at 24? Because he's been playing football since he's 9?
Being forced to retire because this is what he trained to do his entire life. And now he's being told or telling himself that wasn't the right path because I don't care if you can say he got the glory, he got a couple years in the league, got a couple checks. This is an L.
Yeah.
This is an L. And more and more players take that L than anyone else. And I'm glad he was able to have the clarity of mind to walk away because the new reports come out this year that the concussion screening test standard known as IMPACT. It's called the Immediate Post-Concussion Assessment and Cognitive Test. Reports are coming out that over half the players are gaming the system. So I'm going to explain it to you like I explained to one of my friends this week. When I was at Columbia, my freshman year, you do your big physical, and you have to go in and take the IMPACT test. And what it is, it tests your reaction time and memory on a set number of data points. And before I walked in the meeting, I had an upperclassman grab me and say, "Take the test." What? Take the test. If you take the test, that means you get a concussion. You can fake it so you come back faster.
Ugh.
Well, I didn't go to Alabama or a football powerhouse, but this was common knowledge at Columbia. I sandbagged my test. Everyone I know sandbagged their test. And the fact that it's coming out in 2018 and this is happening, and it was common knowledge in 2003 on the campus of Columbia University. Whew. So now you got to say, oh, so the last, call it, they've used the test since about 1995, call it 20 years of concussion tests completely invalidated. We have no idea how many concussions have occurred.
I just don't know how. I can't imagine being in that. I mean, you can because you were there, but like I can't imagine being this person who is built to be competitive and like want to bust so much ass and then not want to pass it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no,
everything in your body has got to push you to want to pass it so you can get back to doing what you have kicked ass to do.
And not just your body, it's kind of the culture on the sport. It's one of the reasons why I'm more and more against any like youth football. I just can't wrap my brain around it because it's not just saying, oh, I want to do this. This is what's expected of you. And it's not just the head. The head's in the focus. But players who play on, like players who finish seasons without ACLs, players who blow out their knees, players who injure their fingers and take these shots to get on the field on Saturdays and Sundays. This is what we're talking about. This is the culture. This is bigger than just saying, oh, it's concussions, oh, it's CTE. There is a cultural problem with football where when I hurt my knee against Cornell's junior year, I came off the field apologizing to my coach. It wasn't my fault. But I felt bad because I said, I've let myself and my team down. If they'd offered me a shot to get back out there and play some more Ivy League football for I believe 2-7 at the time team, I would have done it.
Yeah.
It's when people say, oh, how do these things happen in the vacuum? Nothing happens in a vacuum. And the way the power structure is aligned in these sports, there's no one to advocate for the player because, hey, as long as a player has to self-report a concussion, you're going to have liars. Because everything about the sport says do what you have to do to get on the field. And that doesn't stop because you intellectually know that your brain's being damaged. So tip of the cap to Joshua Perry for having the gumption to do this. So I'm an unabashed Georgia fan, spoilers, and Roquan Smith's one of my favorite players of all time to lace up the silver britches. And right now he's being excoriated in Chicago for not being in camp. Why isn't he in camp, you may ask? Great question. He's not in camp because there's offset language in his contract that states that if he is suspended due to the new helmet rule, that he's guaranteed money is subject to be at risk. Now, without getting into like the larger economic problems of this request and how the only thing an NFL player has is guaranteed money because they aren't contracts, they're one-year agreements that can be terminated by the team ownership at any time. Let's just talk about the targeting rule, the new helmet rule, because I didn't watch the Hall of Fame game on Thursday, shame on me, but I did see the highlights. I did see the 4 times this rule would have been called. Susan, they're trying to put people's money at risk for a rule that they don't know what it is. They've admitted it at camps that they don't know. They have to figure it out on the fly. Aside from like obviously like the control issues and the power issues and the framing of the whole narrative where they turn the team, the fans against the player because he wants to protect his check. It's crazy they're trying to take your money for something that they don't actually know yet. But it seems like that's what you do in a system that's designed to screw over the players.
Yeah. Why isn't the team getting fined?
Right? It
doesn't make any sense.
Players, right? That maybe if that was the impact, would we see sooner, faster changes?
Yeah.
It's crazy because if you say that you're going to take away my guaranteed money as an NFL player, first of all, that's the only money that is real, is the guarantee, and that's only if you appear in all your appearances. To then say we're going to put that at risk for a rule that we don't understand, but if you violate it, we're going to take that money. It's Chicago thinks that they're trying to play hardball, and all they're doing is looking like idiots in front of their new talent. Like,
so
go ahead.
So I know that I know that this is specific to his position, right? Like it's not something that's happening. Is it? But is it happening? It's not happening to anyone else. It's not happening to any new players on new teams or other teams.
It's having a weird effect. So apparently, the only people it's becoming an issue with is the Roquan Smith deal. But what you've seen now is that like high-priced, big-name defensive talent, like an Earl Thomas in Seattle, who's got 1 year left on his deal at $4 million. But I'll let you know a secret. For the years that Seattle defense was great, he was the reason. He can't get a new contract because defensive players are being devalued because of this new rule they don't understand. We can't measure how much impact you're worth because we don't know what this rule is going to look like. These guys are fighting for deals. These guys are fighting for money. And as these rules change and disproportionately affect the defensive player, what you've done is you de-incentivize teams to spend on defense.
Because they feel like they're not going to be as valuable because they can't
precisely
perform the way they would have previously. That's fucked up.
Yes. But the thing is, if you step far way back, and it's all fucked up because that's why the wide receiver numbers all went off the charts this year because they knew this rule was coming. They knew it was going to benefit offenses, and that's where money I got allocated. And now these guys who've given their money, who've given their bodies for these teams are now saying, sorry, there's no money for you.
Why does anyone pretend like this league gives a shit about the football players in any way?
Because it allows us to have, like, plausible deniability when we watch them get fucked over and out repeatedly. I think that's it. That's where I landed.
I just don't even know, like, what is the evidence that anyone has to make that argument? I don't get it.
There's no evidence. It's just this hope that, of course the league cares. But no, they don't care. These are temporary assets to be used up, spit out, and then regenerated.
Retire at 24.
Retire at 24 of your own volition. A doctor wouldn't have stopped you. And I think that when you said that kind of put the biggest pin on it. Like, a doctor wouldn't have stopped him. He could have been playing football. He could be playing football right now after his 6th recorded concussion. And that's a problem. The NFL is trying to sell us a safer cigarette, and there isn't one. And that's what we've got to realize is that, we're changing the game. Yes, you have to change the game, or someone's going to die on the field. The thing they don't talk about, the thing they haven't mentioned all offseason, is the reason this is happening. The reason this is happening is because Ryan Shazier got paralyzed on the field last year.
Yeah.
They're going to want to, I'm telling you right now it's going to happen. During week 1, during the Thursday night game to kick off the season, Ryan Shazier took his first unassisted steps last week. There will be a sepia-toned, soft-pedaled, Bob Costas voiceover video package about these first steps without mentioning the fact that this is the direct result of football. He wasn't reckless. It wasn't football gone wrong. Football went football, and that's why he was paralyzed.
Can't wait to watch a ton of football in a couple of months. It's going to be great.
I find beer helps deaden the guilt. I'm not going to lie.
It's just so enjoyable.
Well, let's have more fun with football because college football ratings are out, and there's a much bigger college football story. I'm going to get to it, I promise. But there's a level of disrespect when you're the runner-up in an overtime game. You lose very little on either side of the ball, and you open at number 4 in the nation. Georgia was ranked 4th in the opening poll. Put him at 12. And I know I'm coming at this with fire and fury that I shouldn't because of all the ethical reasons. That's fine. I'm still a fan and therefore an idiot. 4.
We got to work on you caring less. It's just going to hurt you. I mean, it's all just going to hurt you. What I said a second ago about football being fun, I take it all back.
You've watched me care less. You watched me back away. Georgia pulled me in last year with that season. I didn't want to be a fan. I didn't want to care. They made me.
Sitting on this couch knowing you were at that game was just, it was so terrible.
You didn't say
that. Oh, God. Let's not go back there. Let's not do that to ourselves.
You didn't say that. That was,
Sorry.
Well, let's talk about the cover story, the news of the week. It is the story that's kind of, I guess, plateaued with the administrative leave of Urban Meyer while the school investigates who know what went. And for those of you who don't know what happened, first of all, weird. Second of all, Urban Meyer this week was placed on administrative leave because it's been revealed that his new recently fired coach, Zach Smith, had been beating his wife since 2009, at least as far as Urban Meyer knew. While the 2009 incident was widely reported and was apparently told and adjudicated by not just Urban Meyer, but Urban Meyer's wife, Shelley, and Urban Meyer's 2 mentors, including the grandfather of Zach Smith, to convince his then wife to drop the charges. Apparently another incident happened after Coach Smith followed Coach Meyer to Ohio State. An incident occurred in 2015 that we have evidence via text messages that Shelley Smith was aware of. excuse me, Shelly Meyer, I apologize. Uh, Susan, one of my favorite things about sports like now is that people who aren't as invested get to look at the psychosis of sports from a distance. Making yourself familiar with the story, what's your immediate takeaway?
I mean, who's surprised about any of this happening? And who expects anything to happen to any of these people, really? I mean, because this is just what happens, right? Men beat their wives, unfortunately. And in football, and it's not something that gets harshly punished.
SB Nation has an excellent timeline of everything that's happened. In 2009, July, Smith was arrested for aggravated battery on a pregnant victim. According to the Gainesville Police Department, Courtney Smith was 18 weeks pregnant at the time. The alleged assault occurred on June 21st, 2009, the Smiths' one-year wedding anniversary. Courtney Smith ultimately decided not to press charges because a few days after Zach's arrest, Courtney said two of Meyer's closest friends, Iram DeFries and Earl Bruce, asked her to drop the charges. Bruce is Zach Smith's grandfather. DeFries is Meyer's life coach. Two incidents provided by the Powell Police Department on Tuesday detailed a visit to Courtney Smith's house on October 26, 2015 for suspicion of domestic violence and felonious assault. 14 years later, police were called to the residence on the complaint of menacing by stalking. In neither case was Zach Smith arrested or charged. 2018, he was arrested again on a misdemeanor charge of criminal trespassing dating from a May incident where Smith was dropping one of the couple's two children at his ex-wife's apartment. And the real smoking gun in this case, as far as from a where we stand now situation is, during media days, Urban Meyer was asked directly about what happened. He was asked, he said, in July 2018, he said, in 2015, I got a text late last night that something had happened in 2015. There was nothing. Unless, once again, there's nothing. Once again, I don't know who creates a story like that. So his stance in front of the entire collective media, Big Ten Media Day, was it was a non-story. I never heard about it. I heard it was nothing.
The worst part about all of this to me is that when a majority of people read about this story, they're just upset about what's happening with their football's coaching team.
Exactly. No, you're 100% right. That's why I wanted to cover the entire story, because there's a very real victim here, and that's Miss Courtney Smith. So what occurred after this was a lot of ass covering. On Friday, Zach Smith gave a rambling interview to ESPN Stage Steel in which he intimated that his actions were in self-defense. But then the reporter who broke the story originally provided text messages where he admitted to choking his wife on vacation in Cabo and striking her.
Wait, he said self-defense against his wife?
Yeah, he went on television and tried to throw a cloak over Urban Meyer. Urban didn't know anything, and that he was acting in self-defense. And Ohio State fans are going to be Ohio State fans. They're going to say things that are horrible. And if you're one of those people who says, got to hear everything, got to hear more stories, more sides of the story on something like this, here's what you need to know. Urban Meyer knew that this man beat his pregnant wife in 2009. Urban Meyer used his leverage as his coach to pressure the victim into dropping the charges. Urban Meyer then let this unrepentant wife beater on his staff, carried him to Ohio State with him. And let's just say this: Shelly Smith is often painted as the face of the program. She runs the ship. And whatever you think about Urban Meyer and his leaving of Florida, maybe saying he was doing it for his health, then popped up in Ohio State 2 years later. She's been intimately involved with the program at every turn, to the point where she was now on the list of 3 people who was involved in the 2009 incident. We have evidence that Shelly was told by Courtney Smith what was happening in 2015. If you want to make the leap that an NCAA head coach who was known as the archetype of a micromanager who's involved in everything, if you want us to believe that his wife did not tell him that, then that he fired Zach Smith because of the incident this summer, you have to ignore the fact that after the incident this summer, when all this is coming to light, he was out there making calls for Zach Smith to get a new job as a character witness.
Do you think that this is something that happens in more industries than we realize, but there's just more of a spotlight on this one, and so we see it? It's not a matter of it happens in doesn't happen as much in other industries. It happens as much. We just don't see it.
100%. 100%. I think that's exactly what it is. And I think it's one of those things where I get to feel like a super naive man and be like, I cannot believe this is as prevalent as it is. But it is, because there's no way that this is a solely football thing. These people exist everywhere. And here's how you know, while it is a football thing, it's not solely a football thing, because let's say that Urban Meyer did this and said, I'm going to let this wife-beating guy on my team. I'm going to let him stay there. They had to find out who was going to interim coach Ohio State, because there are two names in that coaching staff who've been Big Ten head coaches, but you can't make them the head coaches of your team because they're fighting off their own scandals. Kevin Wilson was fired from Indiana over player treatment because he basically rushed back players while they were still hurt. Greg Schiano, who was run off of the Tennessee job last year after merely hours of being announced, can't be the head coach because he was on the staff at Penn State that was known as an outcry witness of Mike McCary, who told him what was happening to Sandusky, and he did nothing. They had to skip both of those guys to find the next guy who's going to be the Ohio State coach for the foreseeable future. I am personally of the belief that Urban Meyer's done. I think Urban Meyer's going to be fired from this job. I think he has to be. This is a school, Susan, that fired a football coach a couple years ago, Jim Tressel, who had won a national title over $3,000 in tattoos. They set their own precedent there. Like, once you've done that, it's hard to say, well, he may have followed the letter of the law, so we're going to keep him. Like, even if you want to allow that maybe Urban, reported what he reported to the right people, he kept this man on staff.
Repeated. Really making hating Ohio State easy for us.
It's really like kind of more of a layup than I ever thought. And it's such a funny thing because you see these people, chief among other college football fans, who are taking the stance of like, it would never happen at our school. And our coaches, hey guys, Fahey had a great tweet about this. A college coach is an inherently selfish position. You make millions off the backs of unpaid labor while treating those carrying out the labor poorly. So it's hard to give any coach the benefit of the doubt. I've been telling team or fans, watch how much that you celebrate this. But it's interesting to me because it speaks more to me to power and what power does. It's not that religious people are predators. It's not that coaches are necessarily predators. It's that predators will gravitate towards an environment where being a man and being in charge is generally enough to not be questioned.
We're going to have to watch a Disney movie or something after this podcast because this is really bumming me out.
Well, let's talk about what I think is kind of the only silver lining about this story. And it's how the story got broken. So we covered here last year a lot of the sweeping layoffs of reporters from ESPN as they were shifting to video or pivoting away from video, or video was involved in some of that. So Brett McMurphy was an ESPN college football writer, a great one. And basically when they gave him his buyout, it said 18 months. You cannot write or publish on any other site stories. But McMurphy already had a Facebook page. So he's been breaking stories on Facebook on ESPN's dime. And ESPN has to credit Brett McMurphy's Facebook page for this story because they're cutting him a check not to do his job.
Wow.
It was a straight-up corporate greed move. We're going to get these numbers off the books immediately and make us more attractive, headed into number reporting. I get it. I understand it. So does Brett McMurphy. But he actually consulted his lawyers because this language is very specific, that if you open like a Medium page or a blog spot, that could be seen as operating through a third party, and therefore ESPN can stop paying him. In an effort to get as much money as possible from his corporate overlords, he published it on a Facebook note, and that's how the biggest story of college football got broken. And I'm going to post the article in the show notes because it's very interesting. It is something that shows kind of the ins and outs of sports reporting and how it works, but also shows that no one was covering the story because no one thought to ask the questions. He found out about the 09 things and all the details because of a Freedom of Information Act request of the Gainesville Police Department. This is just good old-fashioned reporting, and it's showing a light, not just that, Urban Meyer is probably a trash human. Urban Meyer is a guy who said, I'm too emotionally burned out. I need to spend more time with my family. after Florida was looking like they were going over the abyss, they're going to lose a whole bunch of talent. And let's also look at some of the disciplinary issues at Florida under Urban Meyer. Now, he then takes a year to become an analyst on television, then becomes the head coach at Ohio State University. You can say that, he who has respect women painted on the walls of his locker room. The question now becomes, why do you feel the need to have it up there? I don't take tours of other locker rooms, but I don't think that's on the lacrosse locker room. And it's because they give this impression of power and of control because they're white, they're men, and they're in control, or they're in power at least. And that way, the fans are okay with cheering on an athlete base they don't normally would not cheer on without the white good man leading them. It's one of the things that I've heard discussed about the anthem protest is that it's revealing not that the teams are pro-team, the fans are pro-team, or we look at kind of when people argue about the money and say, oh, when's Julio going to stop holding out, or when's Rocco going to sign that contract, get in the camp? People don't take that stance because they're so draconianly pro-big business. It's because deep down they hate these players. And what they do, they try to find any slight, any place, any location where they can justify that hate. And now with a story like Urban Meyer, you get the weird level of apologia that should make everyone who follows college football uneasy, who follows sports uneasy, because the problems that you want to point to in larger organizations like the church or politics where men behave badly because they have that power, this also happens in college football. This also happens in all sports. You have to look any further than Ohio State University, who is currently dealing with a sitting U.S. senator who wants to be Speaker of the House, congressman, who was turned a blind eye to the molestation of over 100 wrestlers in his care at his time as assistant coach. This is an Urban Meyer statement is very good and this is the one he released on Friday. It's a great way to position this as an organizational thing so that if he goes down, he takes everyone with him. But I tell you, Susan, this is not an Ohio State problem. This is a societal problem because, and what's so funny is you listen to the wrestlers who are coming forward about that case, they're saying that they were inspired by the Olympic young ladies.
Wow.
To not have their voices be stolen, to stand up to someone who did wrong to them, because the doctor who hurt them is dead. But this man who is running on family values and truth and justice and apple pie and a lot of other horse shit turned a blind eye to their victimization. And his defense has gone from I didn't know to I didn't take what they said in the locker room seriously to I never believed them. It was always tongue in cheek. It's when the answer changes, that's how you know you're dealing with a liar. And it's disgusting because you're right. It's not just sports. It's not just football. It's society at large. And I'll tell you what, I do believe, like Sean Doolittle showed us earlier in the show, that sometimes sunlight can be the best disinfectant. If we don't talk about it, if we're silent about it, that only empowers those who do things in the shadows. The louder you can be, the more you can talk about it, the more that you can be emboldened by these wrestlers who are being emboldened by young women. Like that aspect of the story right there for me was like, it was powerful to me because how often would you be able to say that in the past? And,
yeah.
And this idea, this shroud of goodness, the assumed virtue of sport or whatever, it's not like any organization, just an organization. You can say, oh, it's for good, but it's only for good if it's used for good. And as we're seeing here, a lot of it's used for fucking terrible, awful, no good, very bad things.
No.
Hey, come on the podcast. It'll be funny, said.
I mean, it's just, it's encouraging that people can come out in a way that they maybe weren't able to before, just because there was no one who did it before them. I mean, being able to see someone who has experienced something that you have as well and see how they are responding to it, it's important. And the people that are speaking up, I mean, they're so brave, and I don't know. It's all a big bummer.
Thank you for coming on, and thank you for taking me to Janelle Monáe last night. It was the most fun I've had in a concert place that's not for wrestling.
It's fantastic. It was a great night. Thanks for coming with me and for having me on again.
Yes, now I can not have you on for as long as I want. Oh, no, I said that part. All right, show people notes. In the show notes and on social media, I'll be posting our link to the pigskin picking for this year. Come loose to me in a public forum and show how little you know about the NFL. Fantasy football, if you've emailed in, you'll be getting an email this Wednesday from me. There will be no show this Sunday. Cue sad noises. But that means that we're also launching our second annual podcast week. We're going to be coming all the following week, Monday through Friday, a brand new podcast every week with a brand new guest. Monday will be Georgia football preview with Chad Floyd, former co-host of Doogie Podcast with me. Tuesday will be the Power 5 preview looking at college football as a whole with Michael Felder. Wednesday will be the AFC preview with my former left tackle and future married human being, Matt Barsamian. Thursday will be the NFC preview with, I don't know why I let Canada on the show, honestly. Like, he's just rude. And Friday will be our WWE SummerSlam preview with myself, Rich Fans, Cam Hawkins of the PW Torch, and Sam Franco from Athens Sports Radio. That was your show. This is your outro. See you guys next week.